Elite athletes need every edge they can get. They've turned to blood flow restriction training, working out with tight cuffs or bands.
Hey man, Shane here. In 1966, a man named Yoshiaki Sato was sitting on his heels at a Buddhist memorial in Japan. The way he was kneeling restricted blood flow into his lower legs, which soon went numb. So he started massaging his calves, trying to nurse some life back into them. He noticed the sensation felt similar to the muscle pumps he would get when doing calf raises at the gym. Sato thought this was curious, so he started experimenting to see if he could restrict blood flow in such a way that it would stimulate muscle growth. He found that if he put bands around his upper arms and legs, then he could build muscle while lifting unusually light weights. After 7 years of experimentation, Sato finally opened his own fitness club, after which he promptly got in a skiing accident, breaking both of his ankles and tearing the ligaments in one of his knees. He couldn't afford to go through the full rehab routine, so he had both of his legs put in a cast. Normally, when you wear a cast, your muscles don't get worked at all, so they atrophy at an alarming rate. Sato knew this, and he thought that he could mitigate some of the harm by occasionally restricting blood flow into his thighs. And it worked remarkably well. To his doctor's surprise, he healed months ahead of schedule, and his legs were even bigger than before he went into the casts. Or so he says. Word spread of Sato's miraculous recovery, so he started experimenting with blood flow restriction on other people, and it became quite popular in Japan. I first started experimenting with blood flow restriction training, BFR, a little over a decade ago, when the power builder Lane Norton started talking about it. At the time, it was mainly being used as a way to help sick, old, and injured people stimulate muscle growth without needing to lift heavy weights. Some of these studies were showing that people could build muscle even by going walking. What I was more interested in, though, was how it compared to regular weight training. In a study by Davids and colleagues, the researchers had half the participants train their quads with a conventional workout routine, doing 4 sets of 8 repetitions. After 9 weeks, their quads grew 4%. The other group used BFR training, using the classic protocol, where you use 30% of your 1 rep max and do 30 reps in your first set. Restricting blood flow makes it harder to recover between sets, so after that first set, your performance falls off a cliff. You'll be lucky if you get 15 reps in any of the next 3 sets. They call it the 30-15-15-15 protocol. After 9 weeks, their quads had grown 7% bigger. It was a small study and the differences didn't reach statistical significance, but it's clear from the many studies like this one that BFR training easily rivals the very best conventional workout routines. And it works on almost everyone, from geriatric beginners all the way up to professional bodybuilders and powerlifters, NFL and NBA players, and UFC fighters. What's even more interesting though is that BFR training is extremely easy to recover from, meaning you can do it in addition to your regular training, bumping your training volume up even higher and stimulating muscle growth in 2 slightly different ways. The first time I tried it, I'd already been lifting for a couple of years. I'd gained 40 pounds and I'd brought my arms from 10 inches up to 13.5 inches. But then they got stuck there, and I started blackpilling myself, measuring my skinny wrists and worrying about my arm genetics. Then I did an arm training routine that combined traditional weight training with BFR training, and my arms grew a full inch in a single month, popping up to 14.5 inches. At first, I assumed my biceps and triceps were just swollen from all the extra muscle damage, and that when they recovered, they would go back to their regular size. But they didn't. I was eventually able to bulk them up to 15 inches and then 16 inches. Not all of that is from the BFR training, but I think it helped, at least a little bit. I'm not promising you'll get such dramatic results, but I think it's within the realm of possibilities, especially if you add it on top of a good workout program, you're eating a good bulking diet, and your frame still has some room for growth. BFR training looks like it might be dangerous, but remember, it's supposed to be the opposite of that. It's a style of training designed for old and injured people who can't handle the stress of lifting heavy weights yet. BFR does increase blood pressure while you're doing it, but not by anywhere near as much as heavy sets of squats and deadlifts. Plus, that increase in blood pressure tends to be a good thing. It stresses your heart and blood vessels, causing them to adapt, improving your blood flow and blood vessel health. And a new meta-analysis found that BFR might be slightly better at provoking those healthy adaptations. The most prolific BFR researcher here in the West, Jeremy Lenicky, says that BFR training doesn't seem to pose any additional risk beyond those of regular weight training. It could be that you shouldn't do it if you're pregnant or if you have a clinical ailment, and maybe there are hidden dangers we don't know about yet. But overall, it seems to be one of the healthiest and safest ways to build muscle. BFR training works by restricting blood flow into and out of your limbs. Your arteries can still do a pretty good job of pumping blood into your muscles, but then it gets stuck there, creating a terrifying and painful muscle pump. It isn't entirely clear why it works so well. Researchers used to think it had something to do with the terrifying muscle pump, with all the growth hormones and metabolites being pumped into your muscles. But the consensus has been shifting. Now more researchers think it has to do with making your muscles work harder than they normally would. Then maybe those metabolites and the growth hormones or the cellular swelling, they enhance that effect a little bit. Whatever the main mechanism is, you do get those extra metabolites and growth hormones, some extra cell swelling, more myonuclei in your muscle fibers, great blood vessel adaptations, and some extra muscle growth, especially if you do it in addition to your regular training. If you want to try BFR training, you'll need some bands or cuffs or tourniquets. When I first started experimenting with it, the only one making them was Yoshiaki Sato, and his cuffs cost thousands of dollars. So I went to the local pharmacy and I got some of these stretchy bands instead, and they worked fantastic. Lane Norton recommends getting quick release tourniquets instead, but the bands are very narrow. They're only about an inch wide, so you need to compensate by fastening them tighter, which I don't like. I'd much rather wear a wider band more loosely. It's much more comfortable that way. Fortunately, BFR training has gotten quite popular, so now you can buy bands that are made specifically for it. Unfortunately, a lot of those bands are horrible. This one doesn't stretch at all, meaning that if you're lean, it'll dig into your muscles and leave bruises. These Velcro ones are nice and simple, but again, they aren't very stretchy. So if you're at all lean, then they'll dig into your muscles. So I recommend ones like this. The band is nice and wide and it has a good stretch to it, just like the bandages I used to use. The only difference is that instead of wrapping it around your arms over and over again, it has this nice little mechanism here where you can pull it tighter and then fasten it closed. When you put the cuffs on, it should feel uncomfortable but not painful. If it's already hurting, you should loosen them a little bit. Then, when you start lifting, you'll pump those metabolites into your muscles, and that's when it will really start to hurt. And since those metabolites can't escape between sets, your rest periods can also hurt a little bit. If you're scared of going too tight, that's good. It's good to be cautious. You can wear them more loosely than you think you ought to. But keep in mind that surgeons use tourniquets to completely cut off blood flow to a limb for up to 2 hours, and that doesn't cause any permanent damage. With blood flow restriction training, you're wearing them much more gently, you aren't completely cutting off blood flow, your arteries are still feeding blood into your muscles and into the rest of your limb, and you're not wearing them for nearly as long, so it should be okay. The classic protocol is 4 sets with 30% of your 1 rep max. Try to get 30 reps in your first set. If you can't get anywhere close to that, the load is too heavy or the wraps are too tight. Rest for 30 seconds, try for another 15 reps. It's okay if you don't get all 15. Rest another 30 seconds, then do another 15 reps. Rest for 30 seconds again, and then do a final 15 reps. You can do these reps pretty quickly, accelerating the weight up and then controlling it on the way down. Maybe a second up and then a second down. If you do it slower, that's fine, but don't expect to get as many reps. I've always taken my BFR sets to failure, and I've never gotten anywhere close to 15 reps on my last set, but you don't need to do that. A recent study found that the participants gained just as much muscle when they stopped a few reps shy of failure on each set. If you stop shy of failure, you'll incur almost no muscle damage. BFR training is extremely easy to recover from. That means if you want to add a few sets of it to the end of your workouts, there's almost no downside, other than having to suffer through it. You can even do a few exercises in a row. I like to do curls and then tricep extensions, and sometimes some forearm training. You can superset those exercises together if you want, but I prefer doing them as straight sets, one after the other, because the rest times are so short. You don't need to do BFR training forever. You could do it for 2 or 3 months, pluck all the low-hanging fruit, and then put it back in your war chest, saving it for the next time you want to focus on your arms or legs. Alright, that's it for now. Hope to see you in the next one.